Okay guys, so welcome to Witches of the Moon. I do apologize, but I'm not doing this week's topic, and I will explain why. If you are watching this video, it is because I have decided to go on vacation, and I have done a pre-video that I thought y'all might be interested in so that my co-hosts can load it up in my absence. So what we're going to learn today is the making of Kifi. And for those of you who have not seen Annie's videos, she did a whole series some time ago on Kifi, and it's incredible. Her recipe, from what I could tell, was very... I have a fly in here. Really? Ziggy, get the fly. Anyway, so her recipe is very close to mine. I have a few differences, but I wanted to share in this one video just a quick making of the Kifi if you are interested. Now, although this video is going to be quick and I'm going to show you some quick things, you'll need to get a pen and a piece of paper, because what I'm going to do is give you my recipe, my specific recipe for the Kifi itself. And I didn't have room for my book on here. There's so many things down here. There's a lot. There is a lot when it comes to the making of Kifi. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to include a link to Annie's, one of her, I believe her first one, and then you can try to find the rest of her series on there. I would highly recommend that you go watch it, because her experiences with the herbs and what they mean and how you should be blending them and the purpose of them in the Kifi is, she's just incredible. It's an incredible series. You really need to go watch it. I will warn you though, it's going to take a while, because if I'm not mistaken, there's 11, 12, 13 videos, something like that. So let's go ahead and get started. Get you a piece of paper, get you a pen, because I'm going to give you the recipe, or at least my recipe. It's a little different than Annie's, but if you go and you watch her series, I believe you can go ahead and you can try to pull her recipe as well. Now, for those of you who do not know what Kifi is, it is a small pellet size incense that was created by the Egyptians, and each one of the ingredients have a specific meaning, and the total time to create the Kifi, and I'm talking from the starting of the first ingredient to the actual time when you actually have your pellets. And I apologize, I don't have any more, that's why I'm making more. To the time that you actually have the pellets themselves is probably going to be about a month. Okay, it's believe me, it is not a fast incense by any stretch of the mind, and the pellets are about this size, so goes a long way, believe me. So grab your piece of paper, grab your pen, because I'm gonna show you what I'm halfway into my staging, but I will give you the information that I have. So, and for those of you who do not know what Kifi is, Google it. This is one of those times when you can do your research. So, what I have here is, in this jar, is what would be most commonly known as the wet ingredients. And the wet ingredients are what you need to put together first, because this actually needs to set for several days, 11 to be exact. And although there's reasoning behind that, I allow mine to sit for 11 days. Now, what is in this jar? Write this down. 50 raisins. I use black raisins They don't have to be fancy raisins. They're good size raisins, but 50 raisins. I use a half a cup of chopped figs. Doesn't, I apologize, hold on. Okay, sorry. Okay, so a half a cup of finely diced up figs, a half a cup of dates. I also put 9 drops of lotus oil. I also put 3 strands of saffron. And then I top off all of the ingredients with a very, very red wine. I use a Merlot. I prefer a Merlot. It does not have to be something expensive, but a Merlot. I top this off. Now, it does need to be moved daily. And should your ingredients start to soak up the wine, then you will need to top it off again, add a little bit more. Set that, whatever you have left aside, because you are going to use the wine again. This is going to set now. I do not refrigerate this. The alcohol, for some reason, keeps it just fine, so it's not molding or anything. But if you are worried about molding, then you can put it in the refrigerator. So this is your wet ingredients, okay? While in the days that your wet ingredients are fermenting and coming together, you're going to need to start, and I do this in different stages on different days. It's up to you as to how you want to do this. But the additional ingredients that I put in mine is going to be, let's start with, I have frankincense tears, and I ground them up, which I need to ground up some more. Frankincense tears, 3 tablespoons of frankincense tears. On that same night, I do myrrh gum or myrrh resin. I also ground that up. Now, mind you, these when you grind these up, they need to be a very, very fine powder, very fine. I have myrrh powder here. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of myrrh powder. You're going to need sandalwood. Now, I use 2 different kinds of sandalwood. I use white sandalwood and I use red sandalwood. And I usually do a tablespoon of each. Sandalwood powder. This is my sandalwood powder. That is my red, and I think I'm out of my white. I think I already put the bottle back up. I did. Hold on. Let me show you. Okay, so white sandalwood powder. So I do a tablespoon of each. And while I'm doing these, I keep the container that I am doing these in, that I'm adding them in, I keep on my altar, and I do a blessing for each one and an offering to Hecate with each one of these. And as you can see, this is what sits on my altar. This is the container, and what you're looking at in there is the different ingredients that I have ground up and that I have put together so far. So you have 2 tablespoons of sandalwood. I do a half of a tablespoon of pine copal, and I was able to come across the most incredible quality of colophony, pine colophony, and it's gorgeous. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. I did find yellow copal, but I prefer the pine copal. So you're going to need a half of a tablespoon of that. And if you think I'm kidding, look at all of this. Do you see all of this? This is, yeah, all of this stuff. Yeah. Okay. So, so we have a half of a tablespoon of the copal. I also use benzoin gum. This is benzoin gum. I can't show it to you, but it's a very, very fine powder. You can grind it yourself. You can also use Storax if you would prefer, but Storax is quite a bit more expensive. So I use Storax benzoin. And you need 1 tablespoon of the benzoin. Next I use galangal root powder. Galangal root powder here, kind of a pumpkin color. I do a half of a tablespoon of the galangal root. Cinnamon chips, which something just hit my window. Startled me, sorry. I already have a great deal of, I do have cinnamon chips here. And I'm needing to get some more, but you need to ground up your cinnamon chips. And I use a half of a tablespoon of cinnamon chips. I use orris root, and here is orris root before it's ground up, and I'll tell you now, if you're not going to purchase this already ground up, this is going to take a while for you to ground up. I would recommend a sifter, because there's just no way you are going to get this all ground down into a fine powder. And you are going to need a half of a tablespoon of orris root. Orris root. Dragon's blood. I have here dragon's blood. I have, let's see if I can show you. That's dragon's blood. The dragon's blood, I do 1 tablespoon. Gum arabic. Where did my gum arabic go? Ah, gum arabic white powder. You can also grind this up. Find it in the harder form. I have the acacia series or species. Of the gum arabic, you want 2 tablespoons of that. You also want cedar. I use red cedar, and again, the same thing when it comes to grinding this up. You will spend a long time, which I'm still in the process of doing. You can see here, what you're trying to do is get dust out of this, and you're going to end up, if you look down in the bottom, you start to get dust, and then you sift the remaining slivers out. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of cedar, and I think that's everything. Oh, 1 tablespoon of juniper berries, and when I do my juniper berries, of course they come looking like this. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see. Juniper berries. For those of you who have ground up juniper berries, you know that they can become a little bit gummy, so what I typically do is I grind up a larger amount. I'm not going to need all of this. I grind up what I can, and then I let it dry out for a day or 2, and then I go back and I grind again, and then I sift, and you are going to need 1 tablespoon of juniper berry. I just needed to move that around, sorry. 1 tablespoon of juniper berry. And what you are doing is, in the 11 days that it is taking to put all of your dry ingredients together, you are doing offerings to the mother, and you are thanking her for the properties of each one of these herbs. And 11 days. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of grinding. I prefer to do most of my grinding myself because I'm putting my intention into it. And it works better for me that way. Okay, so now on your 11th night, well, on my 11th night, I normally do a small ceremony to Hecate, giving her another offering, and then it's time to head to the kitchen. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your liquid concoction, and you're going to put it in a small pan, and you're going to put it on very low heat to where it just barely simmers, and you want to let it cook down. And I know that what I would do in the past is I would use a very small, like a potato masher, to mash up what is in here. And then I would sift out the chunks once it's very warm and it's cooked down a little bit, because you want the wine to cook into, but you want it to reduce some, not a whole lot, just some. And then I strain it after I've mashed it up really good. I know that Annie, I believe she said, uses a hand blender to blend up what's in there, and I think I'm going to try that because I have a hand blender, so I may try that on this round. But so you want it to reduce. Sorry about that, the video is giving out, so I have to make this quick. So you want to reduce this, blend up what you can in it, sift it out, and then what you want to do is you want to add honey. And I would only add maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons to where it's like melts in there. And then you want to add all of your dry ingredients. Now what you're looking for is almost a Play-Doh like consistency. If it doesn't have that, add more honey. Add honey until you get that Play-Doh consistency. Once you have that Play-Doh consistency, you want to start making little pellets, okay, like Play-Doh, and you want to lay them out on wax paper so that they can dry out. And you want to let them dry out in full. Now this can take, depending on where you're at, it can take a couple of weeks. But believe me, you want these to dry out. Once they have dried out, you can store them in something glass that's airtight. They don't store forever, so don't make a huge batch expecting them to last for the next year or so, but they make wonderful gifts, wonderful